Did you know that there is a real possibility that because of cuts in funding, that many Head Start and similar early learning programs will be cut this year? Most of the children and their parents who will be affected are lower income and who live in disadvantaged areas of the country. And the children who don't develop learning skills early at these centers will end up needing remediation once they get to kindergarten or first grade. In March 2011, NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, released a report documenting deep cuts to state spending on services for children and adults living with serious mental issues. These cuts led to significant reductions in both hospital and community services for vulnerable individuals with serious mental illness. I saw the effects of those cuts on a daily basis at the hospital and at the long-term care facility I was at, where I served as chaplain. It's extremely sad to see people that cannot get help that they so desperately need. And we saw what could happen when mental illness can grip someone when we saw the reports of the gunman at the school in Decatur, Georgia this week. The U.S. Census Bureau reported Wednesday that 48.6 million people were uninsured in 2011. Now that's down from 50 million the year before. But I know that many of the people who are affected by being uninsured are working folks. And I've seen the weariness in their eyes because they hurt so much and can't afford to get the treatment they need to relieve that pain. You might be asking, what does all this have to do with church? Well, just as these people are being denied the help they need, the leader of the synagogue in our Bible story wants to deny healing of someone simply because of the day of the week. But oh, it's a very special day, isn't it? It's a day that God commanded to be kept holy. But let's look at this story for a few minutes and see if it really was holy, if it really was kept holy. I think it's really curious that the person that was healed in the story is a woman. And I think that when the author of Luke was writing this, he also felt it was important because just a chapter later, you find another story of a man being healed on the Sabbath. Somebody wrote and said, you know that if Jesus is doing something on the Sabbath, he's going to be in trouble. But Jesus was healing on the Sabbath, which is similar to the other story, but that time it was a man. So this story tells us something a little different. I began to wonder what it might have been like for her. I began to use my imagination. She was in the synagogue, even though she may not have really felt good, and even though she may have felt a little different than everybody else because of her illness. Maybe she lit a candle to begin her Shabbat, her Sabbath, and then began praying a psalm that she prayed often. It's known to us as Psalm 71. It's one with which she had identified for many years as she was getting older and had been stricken with this ailment. In you, O Lord, I take refuge. Let me never be put to shame. In your righteousness deliver me and rescue me. Incline your ear to me and save me. Be to me a rock of refuge, a strong fortress, to save me, for you are my rock and my fortress. Then, as she thinks back on her life and her youth and all the things she was taught of the God of Israel, she says, rescue me, O my God, from the hand of the wicked, from the grasp of the unjust and cruel. For you, O Lord, are my hope, my trust, O Lord, from my youth. Upon you I have leaned from my birth. It was you who took me from my mother's womb. My praise is continually of you. Then, like many of us as we get older, because she feels her age and how her age and her crippling ailment has affected those whom she loves and have helped care for her, she continues the psalm, I've been like a portent to many, but you are my strong refuge. Do not cast me off in the time of old age. Do not forsake me when my strength is spent. And then perhaps she remembers how she's taught many of the children that have been a part of her life about God's deep love for them. As she continues, "Oh God, do not be far from me. Oh my God, make haste to help me. I will hope continually. My mouth will tell of your righteous acts, though their number is past my knowledge. Oh God, from my youth you have taught me, and I still proclaim your wondrous deeds. So even to old age and gray hairs, oh God, do not forsake me until I proclaim your might to all generations to come." Then as she realizes God's might, but also God's compassion, she makes her request through the psalmist's words, "You who have done great things, O God, who is like you? You who have made me see many troubles and calamities will revive me again. From the depths of the earth will bring me up again. You will increase my honor and comfort me once again." Yes, she is thankful for God's goodness and for the blessings that God has given her. But oh, how she would love to stand up straight again, to be able to look people in the eye and not to always have to look down at the ground. Jesus was at the synagogue that day. I love to hear that Jesus was there worshiping and teaching. But Jesus in this story was not only teaching with his words, he was also teaching with his actions. Why did Jesus break the Sabbath that the leaders of the law thought were so important? And it was important. It was important to Jesus. But for Jesus, this was a teaching that needed to be taught on the Sabbath. When this woman at the synagogue was healed, there were two responses. She immediately started praising God. Perhaps she started quoting more of the same psalm. "I will also praise you with the harp for your faithfulness. Oh my God, I will sing praises to you with the lyre. O Holy One of Israel, my lips will shout for joy when I sing praises to you." How exciting it must have been for her to not only be healed of her dis-ease, but to know that she was no longer having to look down and that she was no longer looked down upon. She could look up and look people in the eye again. So did Jesus keep the Sabbath holy? Not according to the leader of the synagogue. His response was to criticize. He could only see that Jesus had broken the law. He missed out on the joy of this child of God, this daughter of Abraham. He missed out on how special she was. You know, I remember my 3-year-old, my youngest daughter. She, with her older cousin, who was much older and was quite a tease, they were playing a game of I Spy. And my daughter, who has the flair for the dramatic, just knew that what she was spying was something special, and she told him, "It's special." And he kept going, "It's not special, it's not special." And after going back and forth, finally in her biggest 3-year-old voice and with clenched teeth, she said, "It's special, okay?" Jesus was letting the leader of the synagogue know that just as the Sabbath and had special regulations, this woman, this daughter of Abraham, was special.
Just because she was.
So did Jesus keep the Sabbath holy? As some of you all were talking in Sunday school this morning, you all were talking about the Sabbath. Holy means separate from the ordinary. For Jesus, Sabbath was the perfect day for healing this woman. Her ordinary state had been ill health, crippled. But he was taking her from her ordinary state of being bent over to a lifted state. After all, the Sabbath was created for rest and spiritual renewal. What could lift his spirits more than lifting this beloved child of God from her constant bent position? The leader of the synagogue completely missed the point of Sabbath. For Jesus, the woman was much more important than the details of the law. The Sabbath wasn't created to keep us bound up, but to lift us up. Some suggest that Shabbat, Sabbath, is a brief but powerful weekly sample of the time of ultimate peace, of tranquility, of harmony, and worldly perfection. God doesn't want any of us to hurt or to suffer. The commandment of the Sabbath was meant to help us live more fruitful lives, not to keep us bound up with the law. So how do we let people know today that they are special, that they are holy? I've been very fortunate that I've never been held back from getting treatment, either physically or emotionally, for things that create dis-ease in me. I've never been held back from learning. But I don't think that if I ever was, it would make me feel very special. I don't know the answers to the issues that face our world. I don't know the answers to those who are uninsured, of those who can't get help for mental illness, of those who don't get the education that many of us get. I don't know how to fix it. And I know it's extremely complicated. I think it will take a miracle, like the one in this story. And I know that it's something that we must work and partner with God to find the solutions for. But maybe the miracle itself is and has to be part of the solution. We need to understand and let other people understand that the people who need these things are special, just like all of us. I'm not sure we'll be motivated to work to finding true solutions. I don't think our government, I don't think our leaders of the world or of our country will be motivated to find the solutions until they see how special each and every person is. If God's kingdom is to come on earth, we have to change the way we see each other. Another news story this week told of a bookkeeper at a school named Antoinette Huff. At the school in Decatur, Georgia, where Michael Brandon Hill came in with ammunition to kill in a school. Antoinette prayed for him. She asked him his name. She talked to him. She knew he was special. To many of us, you know what? I had to look up his name this morning. I didn't know his name. We need to be praying for him. We need to be praying for Antoinette. He was just a statistic. The leader of the synagogue may have only seen a woman, a second-class citizen. Now, women back then were not seen the way we're seen today. All that leader could see was a woman who was crippled, but Jesus saw her as special. And God sees each of us as worthy to be freed from the illnesses that bind us, including the unjust grasp that society has on us. Every time we try to look at someone, if we look at them as special, as God's child, we also become unbound by how society teaches us to see others. We all become freed. I imagine that woman no longer saw herself the same again. Maybe her experience with the love of Christ changed how she saw others. The society around her, including her religious leader, may have let her down, but Jesus didn't. The psalmist knew that society could not offer him strength and refuge, but God could. Society and government will always let us down until we allow God to work in all of our lives and see how special God sees each and every one of us. Will you pray with me? Compassionate and loving God, healing God, we come into your mighty and healing presence today, thankful for your love that surrounds us. May we feel that presence, and may it strengthen and renew us and lift us up. You have created us so beautifully, Lord. Help us to remember that. May we see you in the eyes of those whom we meet, here in this place and outside, because you are within each and every one of us. May we find in each other your grace, your mercy, your compassion, and your love. Amen.